Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
And this week is no different, but this weekend is also very different because we have a guest from the Wild Brunch podcast in our studios here, and his name is...
Hey, I'm Alex Gradet.
Tell us about your podcast, Alex.
Sure, it's a Wild Brunch with Alex and Joe. It's a Hatbeard production on the Hatbeard Network, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
That pause was for your token ID sound to go in, right?
Absolutely. It's just, yeah. My co-host Joe Tower and I, we go see a movie, talk about it over brunch, and at the end we evaluate which was better, the movie or the brunch.
And it can be found on Wild Brunch Pod on Instagram and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And the catch is it's always the same movie. Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Yes.
Yes, every week.
So you've listened.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
familiar
Yeah.
with.
So we've introduced our normal folks here on the podcast and our guest folk here on the podcast. And our topic is chosen by Michael, and that is the Mount Rushmore of Breakfast Scenes in films. Michael, why did you choose it?
We've been wanting to have Alex and Joe on the podcast since we started.
Halfway there.
That's right. And we've had a kind of a long-running friendship gag of how we're in this continuing podcast war. And at some point, Alex and I were headed over to like a wrestling show down in L.A. on the trains. And
Like amateur wrestling?
Yeah.
Like Greco-Roman?
It was actually just two dudes on the train.
Oh, okay. It was the two of you. Go on.
And I was just kind of spitballing like, oh, let's combine the things that your podcast is about and what our podcast is about. And I know that you are a film buff, you and Joe.
No,
and,
that's the thing. Is the hook is we've actually never seen a movie, either of us.
Are you breakfast buffs?
That's the thing. We also don't really.
It's Wild Brunch.
This is gonna,
Listen, I'm just
different, bro.
This is going to be a very bad podcast
the
today.
thing about podcasts is it's the last form of mass media with no gatekeepers, and no gatekeepers really means no You guys are familiar with this phenomenon. You must be.
Yeah, we've been.
But yeah, so we were like, let's do a podcast that's about movies over brunch. And I said to Joe, "Have you ever seen a movie?" He said, "No, I'm looking forward to it someday." And he said, "Have you ever had brunch?" I said, "Here's what's crazy. No." And for 3 years now, we've seen many movies and had many brunches.
Let me ask you a quick question before we get into discussion of breakfast scenes in films. What is breakfast in film? I didn't take the food and film course that was offered at my junior college, so I'm not sure how film theory, mise en scène, whatever, treats breakfast. Is it something important? Is it a plot device?
It's the most important meal of the day, Jeff.
And
it's gotta be
that
the
goes
most-
double for cinema.
Yeah,
Okay. Right.
The most important meal of the movie.
Cinema, yeah.
Okay, well then we'll make some discoveries about breakfast and its meaning in the language of film while we discuss the 4 choices that are made by each of you competitors. Our visitors start. So Alex, please, from the Wild Brunch Pod, please begin.
Sure. I'm actually glad I'm going first because I feel like the first one I picked is something that's bound to show up on a couple of lists. First one I'm going with is Reservoir Dogs, the opening scene, which was shot at Pat and Lorraine's in Eagle Rock, a really good diner over in Eagle Rock, where because of that, Joe and I did our first episode. This is a couple of years ago. We did it over there because we were talking about Hateful Eight. But anyway, in Reservoir Dogs, for those not familiar, I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing a lot of white guys in the same age range, so I feel like we're familiar. But I'm seeing a lot of college posters.
A lot of beards, too. So
yeah.
get with the program.
Come on, man.
Sorry, bros.
Reservoir Dogs, we start off with this great diner scene where they're shooting the shit about Madonna and racism because it's Quentin Tarantino, so I guess the second one's a little unavoidable. And it's great. They're very casually having breakfast, only we come to find out very quickly they're on their way to commit a robbery that goes incredibly wrong. Mm-hmm. So it's a good breakfast scene.
Yeah, it comes at the beginning of the film. Sometimes breakfast is used as this way to recap a crazy night in a film. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes it's a way to kind of cap off the end, the morning after the nutty thing happens, sometimes in the final act. So I've seen breakfast scenes happen in the kind of break into two, or the end of the third act sometimes before the denouement. So that's Tarantino doing it right. But then we know Tarantino has a breakfast scene in Pulp Fiction too, right?
The entire movie is a breakfast scene.
Is it? Yeah.
Richard and I had joked that we could just choose all 4 different breakfast scenes, whether the opening with Honey Bunny, the end at the same diner, the
cheeseburgers
Big
and
Kahuna
Sprite.
burger,
Yeah.
and then having coffee with Quentin Tarantino while they're cleaning up.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would have thrown in Bruce Willis stopping to make Pop-Tarts when he goes back for the watch.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
it's not a great breakfast. It's not, especially because they were going to get pancakes and pie until he found his watch was missing, and that's nutritionally not any better than Pop-Tarts.
Well, listen,
but
the day
still.
before he'd had a tough 5-round fight that he killed somebody. So
Yeah,
you
that's true.
gotta replace some of those carbs.
And later he'll be dead with Haley Joel Osment. So maybe that's because his diet is so bad.
Are there any breakfast scenes in his other movies, in The Hateful Eight?
No, because nobody there's a dinner scene and then nobody makes it through the night.
Yeah.
So
Jackie Brown seems like there would have been breakfast.
there's lunch. Lunch is had at like a fake Yoshinoya beef bowl at oh my god, what's the mall? Thank you at the Del Amo. Yeah, but I don't think anybody has breakfast in that.
I think from a character development standpoint, breakfast is a great time to introduce this ensemble. And unlike dinner, which can be sometimes very formal, it's a moment where it's a looser thing where people maybe are unguarded. They're just kind of wiping the stuff out of their eyes. So that's a great way to introduce all these characters.
Although Jeff, I like the point you brought up that usually it's at the end of a movie where just things have been, where it's been some rough
the night
road.
before,
yeah, it's unpacking what's gone on. So now, like, there's a part of me that wishes there was like a post-credit scene in Reservoir Dogs where it's like, well, I guess none of them are really left at the end. I was going to say, because where it's whoever's left is just like, that was weird, right? Yeah. When really it occurs to me, though, but since nobody's really left, like, is we pick up with the scene again?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like the shawarma from the Avengers.
The Avengers,
only now they're all in white suits because they've gone to heaven because murder's fine. You heard it here on the Mount Rushmore podcast.
All right, guys. There's an unfortunate tradition at the Mount Rushmore podcast where the home team, which is Richard and Michael, is beat up upon by the visitor. And I'm not going to say it, but I think that tradition will not be broken this time around. So, but you can try.
It's tough because it's like when you accept the opening kickoff of a game and then you're down 7-0.
Yeah.
After the first drive, and you're just like,
How did that happen?
You got to start playing more up tempo offense, and that's really not our game. Richard and I is more like grind it out.
We're 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of podcast.
We're waiting for Alex just to get bored and walk out, and for us to win by default.
Oh shit, that's an option. Hang on, I got to go get something from the car.
Oh, that's what Dad said. Okay, so Richard and Michael, please.
Our first choice is from the movie It Happened One Night.
Oh, lovely.
And it's when the Clark Gable character of, I wrote it down. Peter Warren is teaching the Claudette Colbert character, Ellie Andrews, how to properly dunk a donut in coffee. And it is just right in line with his kind of constant mansplaining to her throughout the entire film of this kind of rich heiress who is in the real world, quote, for the first time. And it comes after a night where they've had to hunker down in like this cheap motel while she's on the run. And ever since he met her, he's been kind of telling her that, well, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're marrying this guy who's you don't actually love. This is how you really do it. And throughout the entire film, he's just telling her how to hitchhike, what the real world is like. And like she's slowly and weirdly falling in love with this guy that kind of doesn't kiss her ass.
Yeah.
But this one breakfast scene where she's sitting down prim and proper and dropping her pieces of donut into the coffee, and he's just so upset. And he's like, "Oh, you can't do it. You just got to dunk and take a bite. You can't let it fall apart." And it's just wonderful. The movie is perfect. But it's just one of my favorite scenes from it.
I'm surprised he went with a windmill dunk. Those are
The two-handed from the free throw line.
For viewers and listeners who aren't familiar with this film or Clark Gable and the persona that he crafted in many films, I think of George Clooney in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou as doing this almost impersonation of Gable in some of his films, and this very uniquely American, arrogant yet also bankrupt. He doesn't have anything to stand on, but he still has this acts like he's standing on third base. So I just love that character, and that's Billy Wilder. Is that R.A.L. Diamond, or I'm trying to think whoever wrote a lot of Billy Wilder stuff.
The Farrelly Brothers.
The Farrelly Brothers. Okay. Cool. What a great choice. That's like digging it out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Okay.
Glad I came up with it.
All right.
Son of a bitch.
Alex Gradet, what is your choice for the second slot?
It's funny. I tried doing a little bit of homework on this subject because I do believe in preparation, but then it started to feel like I just found a bunch of listicles and could have just sent you guys a link and not bothered showing up.
Yeah, that's our job.
And so I wanted to dig a little bit deeper, and it was strange because I didn't really have a lot of breakfast scenes off the top of the head. So I just sort of tried to go to like a little bit of a zen place and just be like, okay, seriously, just picture anytime someone's eaten a meal at the start of a day in a movie. And
when King Kong takes that big bite off the T-Rex.
Yeah, exactly. Technically daytime, but yeah, so the one I landed on, because it's a funny little scene. So I Married an Ex-Murderer from 1993. And in it, you've Mike Myers is he's just spent the night with his new girlfriend, Nancy Travis, and he wakes up to find she's, I think, already gone to work or something, and is startled to find her sister, played by Amanda Plummer, as you pointed out, Michael, no stranger to breakfast in movies thanks to Pulp Fiction. Nancy Travis's sister, Amanda Plummer, is basically like pretty much... I can't remember if she's like standing in the bedroom or whatever. There's a lot of really arch touches, or he just comes downstairs and there she is in the kitchen, and she offers to make breakfast and comes up with this incredibly extravagant menu. Pancakes and eggs Benedict and bacon and Kona coffee and all that, and then it smash cuts to her just pouring Raisin Bran in a bowl, and she's just like, we didn't have any of those things.
That's funny. That has that appearance of the very classic family drama breakfast scene where the wife has made a full spread, and then the husband is like grabs a piece of toast as he's walking out the door, and it's just how does this woman do this every day?
Yeah.
As this asshole is just like grabbing a piece of toast and spilling coffee down his shirt. The wastefulness of food.
And that seems to be one of those examples when it's kind of in the second act where the protagonist has kind of entered this oddball world that they didn't know they're about to step into.
Right.
And then his suspicion will begin to heighten throughout the film that she's a homicidal maniac. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, I would be startled if I came down and saw Amanda Plummer
Yeah.
in my house, too. That would be
what
startling for anybody.
You get used to it. Like by the third, fourth time, it's just like, oh, hey.
Oh, okay.
Isn't it weird that she became the go-to nut job for films for a while?
No, I mean, not that weird.
Yeah, you're not that word. Okay, Richard and Michael. Michael spoke first. Will Richard speak now?
Maybe. Yes. So we're going from, as Michael said, the wastefulness of breakfast.
Wait,
to...
can we also determine that Richard doesn't know what breakfast really is or had the kind of Arkansas
just-
breakfast?
It's just one long meal.
I tried to find
Bacon
episodes
sandwiches.
where people were eating bacon sandwiches, and I couldn't find anything on there. Sorry, guys. No, we're going from the wastefulness that Michael was talking about to the opposite, the gluttonous.
Okay.
This is from Groundhog Day.
Oh, yeah.
When Phil Connors eats all the breakfast. This is at the point in the movie where he has basically realized that he is stuck here living day after day and he has no consequences to anything that he does. And so he's just decided to basically let himself go because he knows he can't let himself go.
I love that breakfast is used to mark all the stages of acceptance in that film.
It is.
Because he goes through denial, negotiating, bargaining, all these different things. And at one point, breakfast is finally he evolves to breakfast being a cup of coffee that he gives to someone else,
Right.
his coworkers, and which is just mind blown moment for them. So.
Right. They can't
Yeah.
figure out what the
Yeah.
the trick is here.
But the French poetry and all the stuff that he banters with Andy McDowell on is really funny. And
That's
Right.
that's interesting. When you don't think about movies all that much intellectually, like most of the movie is meant to be spent at the beginning of the day because they're trying to get out of town, and so his day keeps repeating, and to the point where he has that breakfast or the cup of coffee, and they're trying to get out of town before noon or whatever it is.
Right.
And then that's your living hell is his breakfast. Like the end point that the end of his day should be this Groundhog Day thing, and then you're gone.
Right. And by this point, he knows that it's not ending.
Yeah.
So might as well get, a whole cake,
yeah.
like a whole pig, whatever the hell he was eating.
And he shares a scene with Andy McDowell, and she's disgusted at his gluttony. But I do want to point out that her character's go-to drink is sweet vermouth on the rocks with a twist. So I think she actually doesn't understand that the food he's eating tastes good. Like she's just going on the visuals of these really unsettling visuals without realizing it's like, oh no, when you like dip a donut into a pie, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Because I think sweet vermouth is good.
Mm-hmm. I think in the breakfast, she comes to find him in the diner because he is evading the actual groundhog taping.
Right.
So that is definitely his avoidance.
Yeah, he's just blowing the whole thing off.
Yeah.
Kind of like he's avoiding sort of lots of things in his life.
Yeah.
Do you think that he, in his infinite time on Earth, do you think he killed somebody? Do you think he murdered someone to see if he could just like end his life?
He does commit suicide with the groundhog
Yeah,
at one
he
point. Yeah.
commits suicide
So-
several times himself. But does he actually,
Take someone out with him.
or just like purposefully like, oh, I can murder anybody and it doesn't matter?
I feel like in the unseen repeats there are several dead Ned Ryersons, like just several where he just murders him in broad day. Like, if
He invites him back to his hotel room to talk about insurance policies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's so much blood.
He's stuffed.
So much blood.
it's the scene from Scarface.
Yeah, basically.
He's stuffed into the sewer and his head sticking out there like the it creature.
If they rebooted that today, like if that was a Lord and Miller movie, I guarantee you there's a montage of all the ways he kills Ned Ryerson.
Yeah. I do feel like Bill Murray, because Murray and Ramis had a negative relationship, I think, after that film till
Yeah,
almost
kind of-
the end of his life.
It kind
right?
of broke their
Yeah.
relationship.
And there's some parts of that middle of that film where he dresses as the Clint Eastwood man with no name, and he does all this stuff that seems eccentric for the character, but seems right in the pocket of Bill Murray's weirdness. Like Murray said, no, we're not going to shoot that page you wrote today. We're going to shoot me dressed up like outlaw Josie Wales robbing a bank. All right, Bill, whatever you want. We're stuck in Fargo, North Dakota. Or whatever. Okay, we are, I believe, at our halftime. Very quickly, thus, coming to it because we have such fun.
We have
company.
reservations.
Yeah.
Reservations,
For
breakfast reservations. We are here with one of the hosts of the Wild Brunch podcast, Alex Gradet, and Alex has told us that the socials are wildbrunchpod.com.
Well, no,
Sorry.
Wild Brunch Pod on Instagram, or you can find us on Facebook.
Yeah. So, do you have much? We at the Mount Rushmore podcast invite our fans to let us know what topics we would like to tackle. Or let us know if we missed a certain peculiar item that on a topic that we did tackle. Do you have much of a dialogue with your folks? Can they suggest films? Can they challenge your opinions?
Well, we've been doing the podcast for about 3.5 years now, and I don't know that we have folks.
Oh, okay,
I no, that's not true. I've had some really lovely outreach from people who listen to the show. Especially the last couple of months, we took sort of an accidental hiatus while I was dealing with a death in the family. Not to bring everything down.
Oh, our sympathies.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But we just got back up and running.
You guys are going to change your format up a little bit too, right?
We are changing our format. We're going through a real transitory period right now. In 2019, we are actually
changing it to the Wild Lunch.
yeah, we finally graduated. No more egg dishes. Cardiologist orders. Joe and I are we're gonna switch up to a couple of podcasts that we feel like take a little more control of from a scheduling perspective, because right now it's like I'm not trying to complain about a thing that we made up for ourselves and that literally no one asked or continues to ask us to do, but we just discovered we are busy adults, when the goal is see a new movie as soon as possible once it comes out, get our thoughts together, regroup, have a brunch, send our recordings to our producer in Brooklyn, have him produce the episode and get it posted all in the window when people are still talking about a movie. It's just become really taxing, and there's a lot where we have to let them slide by, because it's like, you know what, I would love for us to sit down and talk about The Predator, but the time to discuss that, the week and a half to discuss that, is pretty much gone. Mm-hmm. So we're moving to a couple of podcasts we can have a little more control over. Please do check out our feeds for some more details as we go. But basically, one of which is going to be the Wild Brunch Oceanographic Society working title, where we're going to be going through the 2001 film Ocean's 11, one scene at a time, and
I was convinced it was Life Aquatic or something like that.
maybe down the line, but we're gonna hit Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, maybe, if we decide that the format doesn't make us crazy, with a stretch goal toward hitting Ocean's 8 and the original Ocean's 11. It's gonna take us some time though. Yeah. These are dense movies. Mm-hmm. But breezy, so I think it's going to be fun. Yeah. And we're also we don't have a time frame locked down for any of this yet, but the other one we want to do, we're going to a podcast we're tentatively calling The Silver Age, where we go movie by movie through the career of mega producer Joel Silver.
Oh, right on. Mm-hmm. Cool. That sounds great.
There may still be brunch involved, though, so it's not like I'm doing this one on the way out the door.
Do people also ask, oh, did you get the biscuits and gravy there?
Yeah.
Oh, did you get the waffles? Are really, you guys really
boned it? Yeah.
Well, usually if it's waffles, we beat them to the punch on that one. But yeah, we've had people chime in with, "Oh my God, I can't believe you were there. You should have tried the blah blah blah." And it's like, well, it's nice to hear from you, but
you could do, I think, an Ocean's 11 food podcast alone. It seems like Brad Pitt is always eating.
Just following Rusty. He's got
Okay, dudes. So we are at our third round of the Mount Rushmore of breakfast scenes in cinema, and Alex Gradet is going to give his third choice.
Yeah, we, talking about Ocean's 11, which we just were, about a year before that, Steven Soderbergh made a movie called Traffic, which I want to say won Best Picture that year. Let's go with that. Made a movie called Traffic, where there is a not entirely breakfast-centric scene, but it is, to me, it's memorable, where there is a federal witness who's in protective custody, federal witness to the drug cartel, played by the late great Miguel Ferrer, and he's declaiming to the DEA agents whose custody he's in. It's Don Cheadle and Luis Guzman. He's telling them how they've already lost the war on drugs. It's unwinnable from a law enforcement perspective. And he's sitting there with the breakfast that he ordered to this shitty hotel room in Arizona or wherever they are. He's sitting with, he's eating breakfast while he's speaking from, he should be the one without power in the room, but he's really sort of running the room. And he gets to the end of the monologue and, talks about how his eggs taste like shit. And then there's a knock on the door and a second room service guy shows up. And at first we're meant to think that this new room service guy showing up is an attempted hit on the guy, when we realize it was actually the first one, and the eggs tasted like shit because he's been poisoned.
Oh, that's very clever.
It's memorable.
Yes. It was a 3 Oscar winner. You are right that it did win many Oscars. Best editing, best screenplay, best director, best actor. So what a great film.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The hotel breakfast situation is always fun in movies. That is a good lead up and a good revelation.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of in Austin Powers, there's a ridiculous breakfast scene at the end where they do a bunch of silly stuff with holding milk jugs in front of birds and eating giant sausages and stuff. Mm-hmm.
A morning after kind of fun.
And then Odd Job, or the Austin Powers equivalent of Odd Job, delivers a breakfast and tries to kill him.
Unusual task.
Random task. Random task.
Unusual task.
Well, I love that. That's the breakfast scene as Last Supper for Miguel Ferrer. All right, dudes, what's your third?
Our third
Dudes
choice
being you guys.
Which one?
Yeah.
All right. Our third choice is we needed a brunch scene to honor.
Oh,
our good
well, thank
friend.
you.
The brunch scene from L.A. Story,
Oh.
where Harris K. Telemacher is the Steve Martin character, and he is just vexed that he and his girlfriend are late to a brunch, or maybe late to a brunch. And it's like 1 o'clock and they can't believe it. And he's just like sitting in the car waiting, and she's getting ready. And she's like, no, it's fine. We're not late. It's fine. Even though the brunch had started an hour ago. And he's just like pulling his hair out. And he gets there. And of course, they're the first ones there. And she just shoots him like this dagger. And she's so angry at him for being early.
Yeah.
But to him, it's super late. And the entire scene, it just, LA Story is just it perfectly encapsulates LA at times for like this nouveau rich or rich society. And when they're just going around the table, like ordering coffees and
Half decaf.
half double decaf, half calf with a twist of lemon. And everyone's like, oh, I want a twist of lemon, a twist of lemon. And like an earthquake rolls through. It's like every kind of corny LA joke that Steve Martin could write into one, having probably spent a good 20 years at that point, like going to these ridiculous, pretentious lunches. And then the movie is great because it introduces the Victoria Tennant character, and she is not pretentious at all. She is down to earth and a little vulgar, and she doesn't understand like the edifice that she has to put up to be in LA. And it's just this beautiful, silly moment. And like Emily and I went to lunch or to breakfast this morning, and we're sitting there with our kid, and there's just a group of people that have gathered together to have their own breakfast and have their thing. And it's just like, oh yeah, there's it felt a little bit like that when we're on the outside sitting in.
I mean, Denny's is like that. You like that. What was it that I found that L.A. Story, as somebody who's living in Kansas, seeing L.A. Story, well, for me, felt like this transmission of culture from this place that I'd kind of seen filtered through the entertainment that it created, but not its actual culture and the denizens therein and stuff. So I thought it was very charming when I see it. And now, I don't know, it's 1991.
It's all too real.
Yeah.
A little too on the nose.
30 years later, yeah.
We've all been to that like kind of awful brunch.
I actually haven't watched the movie since I've lived in LA, like in the 9 years that I've lived here. I feel like I would finally get, because I was like you, Jeff. I wasn't in Kansas, but I was in Baltimore, and I was like, this feel like I spent that whole movie at the time feeling like I understand what makes this. I understand that this is funny, but I don't get it. I'm just missing this entirely.
Yeah. The charming idea of isn't he a weatherman?
Yeah.
Like Phil Connors in Groundhog Day.
Oh, hey,
There's a coincidence.
there you go.
In a place where the weather never changes, really. So he's got such irony.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite scenes is where he's talking about, what did you do when the weather got down to 54 degrees?
Yeah.
Well, we kept the cats inside. And,
this is a funny place where Steve Martin's stepping out of his role as a comedian in doing not quite a Woody Allen, becoming a humorist or whatever, but definitely Martin was the guy who, with the arrow on his head, playing banjo and juggling cats, and stepping out and kind of getting into the realm of satire and doing commentary on culture. If this was Manhattan or Annie Hall, it would have been New York for Woody Allen. But for him, it's his milieu of L.A. So what were you going to say, Alex? Okay.
Oh no, just when we were talking about the thread of weathermen that we've in '90s movies. We used to do a segment on the show, which we on Wild Brunch, which we stopped doing because it just felt sort of needless. But I'm always fascinated by IMDb trivia entries by people who can't really grasp like what is inherently trivial about a movie and what is an external coincidence.
Yeah.
And I just feel like just by the discussion that was had just now, drawing that coincidental connection, an IMDb Trivium just appeared for Little Shop of Horrors, where like in the scene where Bill Murray visits dentist Steve Martin, both of them would later play weathermen in movies with breakfast in the 1990s. So I think we just made that manifest. We should feel good about that.
Signed sincerely, a computer algorithm. It makes analogies. Cool. So we're moving on to Alex's last choice.
Number 4.
I
like I said, I had to sort of go into a little bit of an unconscious state to come up with good ideas, and just picturing imagery like I said, Amanda Plummer abruptly pouring a bowl of cereal. And I came back with This Is the End from 2013. Where the apocalypse hits while James Franco and all of his friends are having, speaking of LA Story, a very typical sort of actory douchebag party where it's him and Seth Rogen and Jay Baruchel and just pretty much that whole graduating class. And after they've been sinking in, letting the reality of the cessation of human society around them sink in and start to hunker down for what they need to do to survive, that's when Danny McBride, who's been passed out in the bathtub, wakes up, comes out of his stupor, and in Danny McBride fashion, makes what he thinks is a lovely and generous kind of cornucopia of a breakfast, but it's really with all of their remaining stockpiled food. So he puts out this incredible, and there's this great, slow motion montage of him like tossing flour and cracking eggs and the whole thing. It's like, it's really beautifully shot. And then when everybody else comes to, because they smell bacon and pancakes, he's sitting there just like eating everything with this full spread in front of him, and they're yelling at him because that was their whole horde.
I didn't see it.
That's a fun movie. I'm sorry for spoiling a really funny scene.
No, but I love that seemed to be...
You've had 5 years. So.
I've had 5 years. That seemed to be, when you said graduating class, it seemed to be that crew stepping out. They were not the Favreau, Stiller,
Right. They were the
Paul Rudd crew.
They were the Freaks and Geeks guys, the Judd Apatow gang.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting because I feel like they have a couple of movies that are along those lines where they take this sort of high concept run and a jump, but they've been to sort of diminishing returns because they had. I think the interview, I think it was called, the one about Kim Jong-un that was kind of unfairly pulled from theaters.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, it didn't seem unfair because we were being threatened with like nuclear Armageddon if it ran on a single screen.
Yeah.
But they had things like that, or like another one that's called, I want to say is called like The Night Before, which is about Seth Rogen and Joseph Gordon-Levitt like running around New York City on Christmas Eve. It's a fun one, but again, it's like they I think the graduating class thing is sort of apt for This Is the End, and I think This Is the End is kind of apt for This Is the End, because that was sort of, I feel like that was like the last time they collectively had a hit that big.
Yeah, and that wasn't was that Apatow? It seemed like it kind of stepped out from the Apatow.
I don't think
shingle.
he was directly involved in it. But it was, it was all the people that came up through that.
I like that it the trope of waking up smelling breakfast is such a wonderful one in movies or whatever. It's just that, oh, someone's making bacon. I can't wait to get up and have a... I love how that just is totally wonderful, at the same time ruined by this character that doesn't know... He doesn't know that the apocalypse is happening.
No, not at all. But you get...
That's great.
You get the sense that even if he did, he would have done this anyway. Yeah.
All right, we are about to get our last choice from Richard and Michael. But before we do, we'll let you know that this is a podcast that's brought to you by 100 Breakfast, the new Adam Sandler film on Netflix. It's about a guy who lives breakfast every day because it's called 100 Breakfasts. And, well, it's not every day because it's 100 days. And that's straight to Netflix, Adam Sandler. And you can go find that currently on Netflix.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Richard and Michael, what's your final choice?
Okay, so our final choice is the whammy burger scene from Falling Down.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which technically, I guess, is a. I guess we're technically we're kind of stretching a little bit because at no
2
point
minutes past breakfast.
At no point does he actually get breakfast, even though he's got a gun and is shooting up the place to try and get breakfast.
So it is lunchtime.
It is 10:32,
But he's a man with breakfast on his
and
mind.
he wants a whamlet.
Okay. Yeah.
Their version.
Was that the name of it? I never actually looked up what the name of the breakfast sandwich or whatever. The whamlet.
It's the whamlet.
That's so funny.
And he gets a very unctuous sort of like manager telling him, "Well, I'm sorry, but it's 10:32, and we stopped serving at 10:30." And proceeds to pull out his Uzi or semi-automatic, whatever gun he has, and accidentally shoot up the roof. And even after this, he still can't get his whamlet.
Yeah.
By the way, that's one of the best parts. He still winds up having to get the wham burger or the whammy burger.
Yeah.
Which then looks nothing like what he sees on the advertisement board,
Yeah.
and gets pissed about that.
What a great choice. That's completely out of the blue. I never thought about that.
I love when Richard suggested, I just love the frustration that we've all had at trying to order, let's face it, McDonald's breakfast a few minutes past when you're right in the zone, the breakfast zone, that you do not want a burger.
Like there's still breakfast items, gradually cooling on the shelf behind them. Sorry.
I love just this guy's the character's frustration throughout the day obviously is building towards this and building towards much worse. But this is such a perfect breaking
What's
point.
funny is that movie 20 plus years ago seems to presage so many of the dog whistle kind of statements that people make about.
Oh, MRA, white male
Yeah.
anger. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of
It
the
would be
things.
interesting to see it again.
It's one of the things
It
about
does
this.
not hold up.
No, it does not. Well, it holds up if you take it from the standpoint that you realize that he's the bad guy. the
Yes.
entire
Oh,
time.
yeah. But
Which
I don't
is-
think the movie realizes that.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that, I think this is one of the key scenes in the movie because it's, I think, intended to try and get you to go, yeah, I know what you're feeling. I get it, man. The man's trying to keep you from getting breakfast, and this is so stupid. When really it's like, calm down, guy. We don't need to pull a gun out because
You can't get
you
a
can't get your
shitty breakfast.
shitty breakfast omelet.
Some of the points of view of the character seem like he would be a perp of the week on a cop procedural kind of thing, like
Right.
his sentiment was that deep enough to make a movie out of it. Maybe at the time, I don't know.
Well, I think any sentiment can be deep enough if you're coming at it from way the wrong angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was 1993, I think it came out, and it's still a movie that's trying to tell you, man, things really are hard out here for the well-paid professional white man.
Yeah.
It is tough when he can't get his whamlet. And,
Yeah.
not to branch us into another topic, but if memory serves, I think that scene also features a Mount Rushmore of bad fake vomit
Yes, it does.
incidents.
Yes, it
Like
does.
just a really poorly done one.
Mm-hmm.
Like SNL quality, is there a hose? And
Yeah,
it
like
just goes straight away?
just holding up your hand to your mouth at the last second. I mean, I think it's I don't know if it's the mechanism so much as the performance that doesn't really sell it right. I feel like it's got to be a YouTube clip of it, but yeah, it's something.
The squibs of vomit.
The most memorable thing seeing that in the theater was that there was a guy in the theater who each time Michael Douglas upgraded from a stick to a larger stick
To a
from
bazooka.
yeah, he would. This guy would just say, "You the man now." Like he was the man last time. You said.
Wait, was it Sean Connery running lines for
was no
Finding
dog.
Forrest?
There was
Well,
no dog.
no. He was very early in finding the
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Like,
There needs to be like a Star Wars Black Series character of his that just comes with all the weapons, interchangeable levels of anger on the face.
Sure.
That just eventually just get shot. in the head.
I'm actually kind of surprised there was, just given the time, that it wasn't like a McFarlane Studios toy of it, which is just like this super detailed Michael Douglas with like this perfectly serrated plastic flat top haircut and like really rich creases in the white button down.
Briefcase that opens that has like the sandwich inside.
Yeah.
That's a McFarlane specialty.
Nicely done, gentlemen. You've each given us your 4 choices for the Mount Rushmore of breakfast scenes in films. Richard and Michael chose It Happened One Night, the scene where there was a dunking of a donut instruction. Phil Connor's breakfast gluttony from the film Groundhog Day. LA Story, the late for brunch scene, falling down, the whamlet scene. But somehow despite all your amazing choices, our guest, Alex Gradet, did a clean sweep.
He cleaned his plate.
He cleaned his plate. He gets the Frequent Eaters Club punch on his card. Yes. And Denny's will be thanked in this. And Denny's also
sponsor, right?
also in the 100 Days of Breakfast,
Yes.
the Adam Sandler film coming. No, it's now playing on Netflix. So, Alex's choices were The Breakfast Scene, kicking off Reservoir Dogs, and heralding a new indie darling. Quentin Tarantino. And So I Married an Axe Murderer, Amanda Plummer, Psycho Scene, the film Traffic, and this is the end. So Alex Gradet has come and just trounced. He has made hash.
He ate our brunch.
He ate your
Hey.
brunch.
Yeah, before when I said that I'd never seen a movie or eaten brunch before, I lied.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm a brunch shark, yo.
It's a brunch ringer over here.
Well,
I've totally eaten
trick's on
breakfast
you.
slightly later in the morning.
those eggs you've been eaten weren't the real room service eggs. Ding dong, here's the real room service.
Yeah, this is where the real Alex
Yeah.
Gradet comes in the room.
What? Okay, this has been the Mount Rushmore podcast. Our special guest, Alex Gradet, is the co-host of the Wild Brunch podcast and soon to be veering off into new podcast territories. But thanks again. Tell us again where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find us. On. Hang on. Yeah, you can find us on Instagram at Wild Brunch Pod or Facebook, The Wild Brunch with Alex and Joe. If you want to follow us individually on Twitter, we don't have a Twitter presence for the podcast, but individually, Joe can be found at Hatrick Slazy, HATRICKSLAYZE, and yours truly can be found at Menace2Snacks, Menace, the number 2, Snacks.
So thanks so much for listening. This has been the Mount Rushmore podcast. As always, I'm Jeff,
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.
and that's our guest.
Hey, Alex Gradet.
Bye-bye, everybody. I'm hungry. You hungry? Let's get breakfast. All right.